Hello, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show. This is no ordinary podcast. This production has heart and soul, healing and wisdom, artists and authors. Deidre has spent her entire life promoting people, projects, and products that further hope and healing. She has also been a positive force in the entertainment industry as a vocalist, performer, musician, composer, conductor, author, and healer. You will be in good hands spending this time with her and her guests as they will guide you into another space where you can relax and feel their positive energy. Thank you for joining us. And now, here is the amazing Deidre Reigel with her special guest.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to part 2 of the Artist Series. This series is about honoring artists and the value they contribute to our world. And today's guest is Rick Lineback. Now, before I get chatting with Rick, I'd like to give you a little bit of background about Rick. So Rick was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. His father was a Moravian minister, and his mother was a pioneer in the field of special education. Having been exposed to a spiritual environment from a very early age, Rick has been drawn to a life of seeking God first through exposure to the Moravian hymns and beautiful liturgy of the Moravian Church, and then eventually finding his way to the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda and the Self-Realization Fellowship. He earned his master's degree in English from the University of Central Florida and currently lives in Encinitas, California, where he teaches jazz piano, writes spiritual songs, and works as a caregiver. Now, previously, Rick had a career as a technical writer and consultant in the San Diego area. Rick also takes on projects editing spiritual and self-help books in which he enjoys getting to know the authors and helping them polish and prepare their books for publication. Now, Rick is very reachable on Facebook. You simply type in Rick Lineback. That's RickLineback. So, all that said about Rick, I'm so excited to have this conversation with Rick today. Welcome, Rick, to the show. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you. It's good to be here.
It is just so nice to have this conversation. I think both you and I have been looking forward to this for a couple weeks now till we could actually schedule it. And I think if I am correct, you are in Los Angeles as we speak, and you are sitting at the Bonaventura Hotel and have just finished a week of convocation with the Self-Realization Fellowship. Am I correct?
That's right. And I am so excited about that, just that part of it. It was a wonderful week, incredible, so inspiring. And I'm sitting right here in the hotel watching these elevators go up and down, the ones that are bubble elevators. It's really cool.
And just as a background for the audience, you know, the value of the technology that we have today. I was on Facebook, several weeks ago, and Rick had posted this beautiful video of a song that he wrote. And I was so moved by this song that I immediately was in touch with Rick and said, you know, would you be interested in being part of the Artist Series? And, of course, in subsequent phone conversations, getting to know this man, I thought this is just going to be a great interview. So I just want to jump right in, Rick. And this was the first question that came to my mind when I watched your video, listened to this music that was so moving. What inspires you?
You know, I've been thinking about that question, and the one answer in one word, and it's not the real answer, but it is the real answer, God. Because of my life of being exposed at an early age. And I wanted to give an example of one of the things that has been very inspiring for me over the years. And it's really the background that I have, having a father as a minister and a mother as a teacher, and a pioneer on top of that. I was exposed to everything, you know, all kinds of ideas, intellectual, spiritual ideas from age, you know, as soon as I could start thinking and talking. And one time, I'm going to tell a little story about one time I came in from the snow in North Carolina. It was snowing, and I was 5 years old. My mom wrote this down, and she said I had a big glow on my face, And then I actually said, she wrote it down, so I'm quoting here, God is in everything. I could just give him a big hug. and that's kind of, I mean, it's a great beginning. You know? And I'm not trying to put myself up on a pedestal, but I got an early exposure to the concept of God, and a really good one. So it's been a thread throughout my whole life, and eventually songwriting was an inevitable result of that, I think, and all of my songs are about God. But I guess it's my journey that trying to keep learning and trying to keep growing. The concept of God changes as you go through life, and I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress as I keep going.
I think all of us are. Yeah. All of us are. You know, your song is called "Your Hiding Place," and as I listen to you just now, I can see from your mother's comment that this was an awareness, you know, God is everywhere. I just want to give God a big hug. And what I loved so much personally about Your Hiding Place was the omnipresence of the God Spirit that you brought through in that song, and what it means to you to have that kind of relationship. And you're right, we do expand as we mature. So you said that God inspires you, and you shared some of that journey, and how lucky for you that you grew up in the environment that you did. What a great platform for you to have as you came up to the world. So what impact, or what, maybe a softer word would be, what effect would you like your art and your artistry, and I use those two words distinctly, to make in our world? What's the effect you'd like to create at this point, Rick?
Well, it's a great question, and I give that a lot of thought. First of all, writing songs about God narrows down your audience, and to some degree, although the Beatles and some of their songs, All You Need Is Love, and Here Comes the Sun, and other songs like that were universal. But it does, for me, since I'm not the Beatles, it narrows it down quite a bit. So for the kind of effect that I guess is just inspiring others to feel some of what I'm feeling when I'm writing a song, when it actually comes up in my consciousness. And the process of writing songs itself is very interesting. It's sort of a game of plucking out of the ether, almost like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You've got almost an infinite amount of jigsaw puzzle pieces to choose from when you first start writing a song. And then as you get into it, it narrows down and becomes, as a lot of songwriters say, the best songwriting is something that seems like it just had to be that way. And we recognize that oftentimes in songs. That just had to be the way. It couldn't have been any other way. That's the ultimate goal. But anyway, that's the process. But what I'd like for people to, or what the world to get from it, is to have some of the same feelings that I had when I first wrote it. And it's going to be different for everybody. So that kind of brings up this issue of universality. Touching on things that are universal and common for all of us has been a keynote in my process of writing songs. And it's not easy, but it can be done, and that's one of the great, I think it's one of the great wonderful secrets or wonderful things of songwriting, that music itself is a universal language. And so if you can tap into something that everybody goes, wow, that's cool, and that makes me feel happy, gives me joy, then that, excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice, that gives me so much. That's all the feedback and all the reward that any songwriter could ever want. Forget about the money and all that, Just knowing. I've had people come up to me and say, a Mormon guy one time listened to this particular song, and he said, my God, this changed my life. This song changed my whole life. And it just, what more reward could you possibly ask for than that?
Wow. Well, this is the value that we artists in all our forms bring. You change somebody's life. And,
Yes.
you spoke about maybe narrowing the audience when you use the word God. Then you went on to say, all you need is love. And how many other artists have written about universal concepts that I personally believe every one of the 7.5 or so billion of us on the planet is really seeking in each in our own way. And
Yes.
I think your answer is just beautiful, and of course it inspires me. And as a songwriter myself, I completely understand you're pulling down puzzle pieces, and the song then just has to be that way. And so again, your song was so powerful and so impactful for me that I reached out to you on Facebook. And, you and I had never met before that. That's the power of what you have created, Rick. And I really want to celebrate that with you, and I really want to make mention to our listeners that that's how powerful the arts are. Total stranger. I reached out to you on Facebook and said, would you like to be a guest on my show? That's the power of the universal language of the arts and the music. Now, you had said to me that you had lived your life in corporate America for many years, and that you left corporate America, and now you're a creator of this piece of music that I have found so deeply moving. Could you just tell us a little bit about your journey from corporate America into the life you're living now?
Yeah, that's been a journey in itself, obviously. I was trained as a technical writer, have a master's degree in English/technical writing. And so when I first came out to California, I immediately got a job. It was 1999. And a very good job. I worked for Qualcomm, and I worked for I was a consultant for several other big companies. And that in itself is a whole interesting world. But, sitting in a cubicle and contemplating your retirement and how much money you can make, it's just not everybody does that, but it is on a lot of people's minds, is a far cry from what I ended up doing, and songwriting and caregiving and teaching some piano. I guess it's part of it was that a lot of jobs were outsourced, including mine. So that put me in an existential crisis when my job became outsourced in India, and I was looking. And it was during that time I was going to the church, the SRF church there in Encinitas. A member of the church came up and said to me, we're looking for caregivers, and I know that you were looking for a job. I had been interviewing around, and I was not having that much luck after these series of jobs were outsourced. And so I said to him, very dear friend of mine, actually, now we've become close friends, George. And I said to him, well, how much does it pay? And he said, $15 an hour. And I said, oh, well, I'm used to getting paid 3 or 4 times that much, so I dismissed it, But then the next Sunday, I saw him again, and he said, we really need somebody, just a sub. Could you give it a try? And then I felt the call. I felt,
yes,
my guru is asking me to do this, and which is Paramahansa Yogananda. And so I went. And within 2 hours of meeting this man who had one limb taken, part of his leg had been removed, and he needed help, obviously, doing all kinds of things, I fell in love with it within 2 hours of doing it, and it changed my life. And I've been doing it 16 years now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
never looked back, right?
I never looked back. I mean, I thought about getting back into it, but I tell you, the modern technical world moves so quickly that if you're out of it for even just a little while, it's hard to jump back in. And but I'm so happy. I wouldn't change anything. I'm such a much happier person doing something. The money may be less, but that's not the issue at all. It's what you get out of it and what you give.
I would imagine this is what may have, as you said in your story on Facebook, this may be what opened up this ability to tap into the songwriter, creator person that you are. And, of course, we're all going to benefit from that. And that causes me to ask you then, Rick, specifically, what inspired you to write Your Hiding Place? Can you tell us just a little bit about that process?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. This started years ago. Actually, it was the first song I ever wrote, and it I remember getting out of my van, out of Volkswagen van, way back. I think it was about 1981, and I think I wrote about this actually in my little blurb on the side of Facebook. I remember getting out of my van, and it was there, this idea of this sort of universality of seeing God in everything, and the phrase came to me, I see your smile in every face, in every heart, in every race. I feel your warm embrace. And even though I wasn't, I had musical background, but I wasn't a songwriter at all then. So I knew there was a song there, and it took years before I was able to manifest this. And so it's been a long journey just for this one song. I've written others at a much shorter time. But I worked with Alan Green, who became, when I moved to California, Alan, who is actually the performer in this song, and he performed it on piano and as well as the vocals.
That's wonderful. He's wonderful, Rick. Yes.
Oh, he's incredible. And so, I mean, just a little bit about it. As the song starts out, it starts out, all my life I've tried to find a way, but I've been mystified. There's something I must say. That's sort of just an intro. I didn't really know what. I wanted to, before I got to the meat of the song, I wanted to introduce it in that way. It's kind of this could be a love song, a human love song easily, when it says, I see your smile in every face and every heart and every race. I mean, it could be, but then it quickly becomes obvious once it gets to sort of the punchline, oh, Lord, I've found your hiding place. And that's the moment, I think, when most people go, oh, I've been listening. I like to listen to the song with another person who's never heard it, and they'll go, oh, wow, that's cool. And it's fun to get that, reaction of, oh, this is about God. Wow, this is cool. And so that was on purpose, to put it in that way. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, I fell in love with the song. Of course, the pianistic abilities of Alan are just, the way the chords are structured, the way the melody moves. I mean, myself as a musician, I really appreciated the expression in the song. So the actual production of the song is such high quality. And then when you sit and listen to these lyrics, which you've been so kind to share some of with us in this moment to really pique our interest, to whet our appetite, I really want to just pause at this moment, so eager to encourage our listeners to take the 5 minutes that it takes to really enjoy this song. There will be a link in the visuals, of course, to our listeners that you can, for our listeners rather, that you can just take a moment and really refresh yourself. It's like going to a spa for 5 minutes to listen to this particular piece of music, and I just wanted to get it in there to really give this song a big shout out and to give you a shout out as the creator of this. It's wonderful. Now, Rick, I interrupted you in my enthusiasm, so I'm going to ask you to please pick up where you left off.
Let's see. Well, I was just going to mention that the song itself has been, after you write a song, and this is true, I think, of most songs, it no longer becomes yours. It becomes public domain. I mean, you can have the copyrights to it and so forth, which I do, but it becomes, and then it's each person, obviously, they have their own interpretation. That's just the way it is with all songs. And I love listening. I'll listen to my own song and I'll go, wow, that's something new I'm getting from it, just like anyone else. So I use it as almost like a mantra, or something like in the background of my mind. Sometimes I'll have it going, and other songs as well, even other ones that I've written, which helps me on my spiritual path. So that's sort of the crux of this whole journey for me, is that my songwriting has been a supplement and a great aid on my personal spiritual path. And so that way it just sort of integrates into my whole life. And it's been a beautiful sort of practice for me. And let's see, that in a way, this particular song in particular has been sort of a lifetime work. Some of the other songs, I have some secular songs that I've written. One is called Magic in the Air. And another one that I wanted to mention, since we're talking about songwriting, is my brother has come up with sort of a chorus to a song. My brother, unfortunately, was diagnosed with schizophrenia when he was 17 years old. And in fact, his name is Alan also, spelled the same as Alan Green, but A-L-A-N. Anyway, it's a family tragedy that's been ongoing for many years, and it's a difficult test, maybe the most difficult of all the tests that I've had, because it's like losing someone every day, rather than if someone were to pass away, which God forbid, it's you grieve and then you move on sort of after a while. But if someone's in a hospital and they're suffering and you know it and you feel it and you know what's going on, it's sort of a thing that's continuing. It's a long time suffering of sorts.
Yes.
And I remember sitting years ago in meditation when I was fairly new at meditation and asking God to and I didn't know what I was doing, but I said, God, if I could take on the karma, if I could take this on, please let me do it. Because my heart was just pouring out with hurt over his situation. And oddly enough, the opposite happened, which is very interesting. I had one of the highest meditations I've ever had. I floated out of my body, I remember, and I was up at the ceiling, sort of out of the body experience, and I felt bliss. And this was one of the things, if I have anyone to thank for anchoring myself on the spiritual path, would be my brother, because I was reaching out to him in that very, very sincere wanting to take on his burden. But it doesn't quite work that way. Very advanced souls like Yogananda can do that, but and Jesus and other great ones who, but not the rest of us, not yet anyway. And anyway, I'm going astray. But he wrote a song called "I Saw God," and I just would like, if we do have time, just to recite to you the. In fact, I think I'll sing it to you, if that's okay. Okay, because
by all means, Rick, please, yes.
So it goes like this. Okay, let me get ready for this. And this is really just the chorus, and then I ended up writing a whole song around it, and it's another one I hope people will look at. It goes like this. I saw God painting a rainbow. I saw God move his chariot across the sky. I saw God climbing a mountain. I saw God make the windy moon rise. And it just came out of him one day. He played it. He's a guitar player, and he played it on guitar much better than what I just sang. And he's a good performer. And, we just melted. All of us, my family, we just melted. And, oh, my geez, And that was another very significant moment in my life. And I have taken that song and I have professionally put it together just like the other one by Alan Green as well, and it's wonderful. I don't say so myself. It's just a wonderful piece, and I hope, too, that I'll try to post my next project is to post that one on Facebook, so I hope that your listeners will look forward to maybe viewing that when they come in. I don't know how long it's going to take. I've got to put the video with it.
Understood, Rick. I am eager for that song to be introduced to the airwaves because I feel your compassion. I feel you come from your heart, from a place of service to offer great gifts to humanity. Music is a universal language. I will be very eager to see that come up, and when it does, I would love to have you back on the show and talk more about that particular piece of music. You have piqued my curiosity and whetted, is that a right word? Whetted my appetite. So all of that said, Rick, I know we're coming to the end of our time together, Rick, and if you were to say one thing, one or two sentences to our listeners about the art form that you are now offering as a way of gifting, what would those words be, Rick?
Well, that's a little harder. Well, what has been on my mind, especially during this week, I'll try to tie it into my own personal artistry, but what I'm getting right now, I have spent a week in maybe the most powerful convocation that I've ever participated in, is this idea that our world even though we're going through very troubled times now, as we all know, it's a challenging time. And if there's any one thing I would convey, and this is what the spirit of this whole convocation has been, is that it's going to be okay. We're going to make it. You know, we have people overlooking, helping us, and we have our line of gurus on my path, or Babaji and Christ are the two that are at the top of the list, and then we have the other line of gurus, which I won't go into, but the minister said that during this last talk that he gave last night, he said, I opened the book and I asked God to give me something that I could share, just a sentence or two that I could share with everyone. And he came to the passage where it said that Babaji, who is an avatar, and Jesus are overseeing all of this, everything, and that it's going to be okay. We're going to be all right. And so it gave me so much unbelievable comfort to know that. Now, that's not exactly answering your question, but that's what's on my mind right now. And
Rick, I think it actually has answered the question. I think many of us are truly concerned about the future of our planet, of our world, of our cultures, et cetera, for so many reasons. It seems to be a time of great chaos. In fact, I would take the word seems out of that question. It is a time of great chaos, which is very unsettling on so many levels for many, 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 in fact, probably most of us. And the idea that it is going to be okay. And I think this is where people turn to the arts. You mentioned that you listen to your own music for solace, support, and comfort. And to be candid, I listen to my own music. And I can't say really that I wrote it. I simply took the cosmic dictation on it. And it comforts and inspires, uplifts me. So what then is it doing for other people? And I really want to drive home the point as we conclude our wonderful interview together today, Rick, that it is going to be okay. And I thank you for sharing those wonderful words, Rick. Thank you for just showing up today as Rick Lineback and being in the moment with me. Thank you.
Well, you're so welcome, and thank you for asking me. It's been a wonderful pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking with Rick Lineback. I assure you he will be on this show in the near future. And this has been part 2 of the Artist series. Big shout-out to Rick and, of course, to Alan Green. And, Rick, once again, thank you. And to our listeners, we'll see you next time. In the meantime, do take good care of yourself. And remember, it's all going to be okay. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of this podcast, nor is any content intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness of any kind, or substitute for proper professional care in this regard. We sincerely hope you have enjoyed today's show. If you're not already a subscriber, please click on the link and join our ever-growing community of goodwill. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please contact us at drhoperadio@gmail.com. That's drhoperadio@gmail.com. All of us here at the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show wish you a day filled with hope and joy. Till next time, namaste.